Why? Why? Like, I think, as crazy as it sounds, the only way to do this and look like you have a heart is evaluate people on a case-by-case basis.
I'm picking them up first. You know what? I just thought about it. I'm gonna pick them up. I'm gonna slam them. I'm gonna let them get back up. Then I'm gonna hit them.
When Joe Rogan finally spoke about the viral Rampage Jackson incident, the internet lit up again, but not for the reason people expected. Instead of joining the outrage, Joe leaned into the MIC and said what nobody else in combat sports seemed willing to: you've got to look at these things case by case. By the time Rogan reacted, the footage had already been seen millions of times. Rampage Jackson, son of UFC legend Quinton Rampage Jackson, slamming independent wrestler Seiko Stew at a small KnockX Pro wrestling event before unloading punch after punch as a crowd screamed for someone to stop it. The video was everywhere: ESPN segments, wrestling podcasts, Twitter threads demanding arrests. Lap confirmed an active felony battery investigation. WWE quietly scrubbed KnockX branding from its pages, and even MMA fighters weighed in, some calling for lifetime bans while others blamed head trauma or poor refereeing. So when Rogan finally spoke, fans expected him to torch Rampage Jackson. Instead, he urged patience, wait for the medical reports, hear from the investigators, and understand the context before deciding what happens next. For Rogan, a former fighter and longtime commentator, this wasn't about defending anyone. It was about refusing to let one viral clip replace due process, medical facts, and promoter accountability. And just like that, the debate changed.
They're trying to cover everything up.
And then even from the people closest to it now that I'm disassociating with, they won't even put out the full story.
And since this incident, the WWE has cut all ties with this organization, and I certainly think it's the end of the organization. I mean, how could they ever come back from any of this? And so, imagine this.
Before Joe Rogan ever spoke, the video had already taken on a life of its own. It was August 9th, 2024, at the KnockX Pro Wrestling Academy in Sun Valley, California, a small independent show live-streamed to a modest online audience. Rampage Jackson, just 20 years old and the son of UFC legend Quinton Rampage Jackson, was scheduled for a routine segment against veteran independent wrestler Stuart "Zio" Stu Smith. No belts were on the line, no major storylines, just a standard exhibition for fans. What happened instead shocked everyone watching. Witnesses say it began with a hard body slam, the kind pro wrestlers typically know how to absorb safely, but the impact left Stu motionless on the mat. Instead of stopping, Raja threw more than 20 punches before referees and other wrestlers rushed in to pull him away. The entire scene was broadcast live, then clipped, reposted, and shared across Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit, reaching millions within hours. By that night, Lap confirmed they were investigating the incident as a possible felony battery case, and paramedics had transported Stu to a local hospital with head and neck injuries. KnockX Pro Wrestling released a brief statement saying they were cooperating with authorities. That was a situation Rogan walked into when he finally spoke. Viral outrage, calls for punishment, and a flood of unanswered questions about intent, safety, and accountability.
Just why? Why? Like, I think, as crazy as it sounds, the only way to do this and look like you have a heart is evaluate people on a case-by-case basis.
When Joe Rogan finally weighed in, people expected fire and brimstone. After all, the video looked bad, a young fighter pounding on a motionless opponent while the crowd screamed for someone to stop it. Social media had already rendered its verdict, with most calling for Rampage Jackson to be banned for life or charged immediately. But Rogan didn't go there. Instead, he leaned into the MIC and said calmly, "You've got to look at these things case by case." For a guy known for blunt takes, the restraint surprised people. He acknowledged that the footage was ugly, but he warned against building an entire narrative on a single viral clip, pointing to too many unanswered questions: the reported concussion, Rampage Jackson's comments, the lack of medical oversight at the event, and the role of referees and organizers who should have intervened sooner. Rogan stressed that context matters. He wasn't defending Raja, but he also wasn't joining the pile-on. Investigators needed to review medical reports. Witnesses needed to give statements, and only then could anyone determine whether this was criminal intent, a medical emergency gone wrong, or something in between. Coming from Rogan, a man who has called fights for decades, that call for patience carried weight.
Like, I think what's happening is this over-sensationalized push of, one side being bad and one side being good.
While Joe
Rogan was calling for patience, the wrestling world was in chaos. Doug the Epic Mallow, one of the wrestlers who jumped in to stop the attack, told reporters it was one of the scariest moments he had ever experienced in the ring, explaining that the instant Psycho Stu stopped moving, everything changed, and if he hadn't intervened when he did, the outcome could have been far worse. Knox Pro Wrestling released a short statement confirming the incident was under investigation and that they were cooperating with police, but declined to comment on Rampage Jackson directly, citing the ongoing case, while promising a review of event safety procedures. Online, the reaction was explosive. On Reddit Squared Circle Forum, hundreds of posts debated whether this was a tragic accident or criminal assault. Wrestling Twitter lit up with calls for Raj's immediate lifetime suspension, while independent wrestling podcasts split between arguing it was a shoot gone wrong, wrestling slang for when things turn real, and blaming event organizers for letting an inexperienced, possibly concussed fighter work a physical segment at all. Over all of this was Rogan's voice, urging fans to slow down, get the facts, and avoid letting social media outrage replace investigation, a stance that stood in sharp contrast to the community's immediate call for punishment. The fallout only grew as fan protests took place outside Knox Academy the week after the incident, with local news quoting supporters demanding mandatory medical clearances before every match. Independent wrestlers began sharing stories of unsafe rings, untrained referees, and promoters skipping EMT costs to save money, and Rogan's argument for better regulation began to seep into mainstream wrestling podcasts, with some hosts even demanding that state athletic commissions oversee independent wrestling the same way they do amateur boxing.